Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody for joining the call. We actually have two meetings today. The first will be our annual meeting, and the second will be our regular board meeting. And so in the interest of time, I will call the annual meeting to order and dispense with the reading of the minutes unless there are additional additions, deletions, or corrections. Are there any? I assume everybody's read them and memorized them. We'll assume that the minutes are approved as presented. We've got two action items for the annual meeting. The first is the presentation of the officers' slate. And with that, I would turn to the chair of our governance committee, Sharon Hanson. Sharon, if you would, please.
Good afternoon, all. We held our most recent governance committee meeting on October 27th, 2020, at which time we discussed officers for the corporation for the next term. And it's my understanding that there will be no changes to the officers currently in place. And unless there's a motion from someone on the floor, I will accept the motion to move forward, keeping the officers as is for the 21-22 session.
Thank you, Sharon. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
There's motion has been seconded. Any further discussion? Any nominations from the floor? Further questions for Sharon or members of the governance committee?
Thank you, Sharon.
If there are none, we'll go immediately to a vote and ask that everyone in favor of the slate please signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? That motion carries. Thank you all very much. And now to the annual report by our president and CEO, Dr. Quattrochi. Tom, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Happy New Year to everybody, if I haven't had a chance to say that to you. We obviously had a very eventful year in 2020, and I'm just going to go over a very high-level overview of 2020, and then talk a little bit about what we have strategically planned or focused on for 2021. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Oh, the host has disabled my sharing. Can you let me in there, Jeffrey? Got it? All righty. I think I'm driving. Okay, here we go. So obviously, we have many renovations that have gone in the building, but obviously our hospital is all about our people. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce, who's on the call with us today, Michelle Marshall, who was nominated to be the Employee of the Year. And I'm going to ask Karen Zemansky to introduce Michelle. Karen.
Hello, everybody. I am very proud to let you know that Michelle Marshall is the Employee of the Year. She's been part of the ECMC family for 17 years. She oversees the clinic operations at 1285 Main Street, 2005 Sheridan Drive, Depew Clinic, and 2 grant programs. I'm going to take a moment to read what people wrote about her because it's just so inspiring. Michelle has gone above and beyond each and every day for all of her clinics and grant programs. She's always ensured that her employees and clients feel heard, appreciated, and supported. She faces everything she has to do with grace and professionalism. She has successfully overseen multiple moves of clinics, all the while staying committed to our clinic expectation for every task she has been involved in. She's respected, fair, and a pleasure to work with. Most days, she motivates everyone, including myself, to do their best. She's a perfect example of work ethic and deserves to be recognized for this dedication to ECMC. Her staff wrote, "With all that is said, we feel there is no one more deserving of this Employee of the Year nomination." So we're very excited. During the presentation, many members of Leadership Council utilized the chat box to wish her congratulations. And you can see here, people are celebrating.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you,
And,
Karen. Thank you, Michelle. Congratulations.
Thank you, Michelle.
Tom?
You'd like to say something, Michelle?
Yeah, just for a second. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for sharing that with me, Karen. It's been a wonderful 17 years at ECMC. I'd like to thank you all today for taking time out of your meeting to give me some further recognition. It's truly just a privilege to work for ECMC. I think that all the staff behind me is what helps me do my job the way I do it. I'm extremely dedicated to them and to the organization. And I just am really humbled by the recognition, because I know it has been a tremendous year for everybody and our frontline workers. And I'm just thankful to be part of the team, to be able to continue to give our patients the care they deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you for everything you do for us and for our patients. We're fortunate to have you as part of the ECMC family and as a leader here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Michelle, make sure that Tom gets you the Mercedes that goes along with the being named Employee of the Year.
I'm waiting for it.
Don't let him drive it away without you.
No.
But
I am
congratulations.
appreciative of the gifts I did receive, so thank you very much.
Well, congratulations again. I would ask everybody to please stay on mute if you can. We're getting some background noise that is really disturbing. So, Tom, if you would please. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. And congratulations again, Michelle. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, COVID-19 obviously was a big part of 2020. And I just wanted to very quickly go over some of the things, just a reminder of all the wonderful work that the executive team did. It has been ongoing and daily for many of us, 7 days a week, with reports and communication with the state, but most importantly, taking care of our staff and our, most importantly, our patients here at ECMC. So just wanted to kind of give a reminder of all the things that we've done this year and the great job the executive team has done managing this pandemic. Here's some of our statistics. We have 738 COVID patients that we took care of as of 1/25 and opened up 4 new medical surgical units. We opened up a new MICU, or a new wing of the MICU. We've kept that open through the pandemic and plan on keeping that open generally because of the increase in ICU patients. We performed 95,000 tests and had negative tests and 2,900 positive tests. So just kudos to the team and all the work that they did. They just did phenomenal work continuing through this pandemic. There we go. This is kind of a graph of the new patients weekly. So you can see we've had a spike as of late, but it seems to have leveled off that spike. So we're continuing to have between 55 and 60 patients a day in the hospital. Also, average length of stay by quarter. So you can see that we've gone down in our average length of stay for our patients. This is another trend line here of COVID-19 positive patients, and you can see some of the higher statistics that we've had as of late, but also those on ventilators has gone down. We've seen a recent spike here a little bit, but for the most part, obviously the ratio of patients on ventilators to total patients has gone down significantly, and it's a great care that's been provided and those things that we've learned, and some of the things we learned of some of the protocols that we're doing. So just a reminder of all the different protocols and therapies that we have provided to our patients under the guidance of Dr. Murray and Karen, and making sure that we make sure that our physicians are educated, but also obviously all of our clinicians in making sure that we provide these innovative therapies to our patients. So 2020 goals and accomplishments, all the statistics will be affected by COVID. So you'll see that in all the statistics that we have moving forward, obviously with the cancellation of surgeries and also the reduction in patients that we had initially with the onset of COVID and folks not coming to the hospital. So we had obviously a dip in our overall inpatients, emergency room visits, total surgeries, obviously. And as you know, we just got approved for elective surgery to start again. So that'll be starting up on Friday. Total outpatient visits. And I wanted to break down this year for you a little bit because while we were very busy with outpatients, it wasn't obviously all the typical volume that we see. You can see the routine volume there. We obviously pivoted to telehealth, and Keith has done a great job in really preparing us for digital health. And we have a lot of work to do in 2021 to prepare ourselves even more. And you can see all the COVID testing that went on and vaccination and antibody therapy. So it was obviously busy, but not necessarily our typical volume. Acute length of stay went up. As you know, early on, the COVID patients had a very high length of stay, and that's dropped, but it's still longer than the average patient. So you can see that our length of stay has gone up and our acute case mix index went down because, again, those are a lot of medical patients. Average length of stay totally, as you can see, 7.9, not just acute. Here's our kind of obviously overview of what we just saw in a graphical form. And, you know, no surprise here. We do this every month. But the overall statistics for the year and being down 5% in discharges, and obviously the cancellations of surgeries was significant, and the reduction in ER visits and outpatient visits. I do want to say with regard, let me just go back here for a second. You know, the length of stay, the team did a really, really good job in the midst of this pandemic managing length of stay. And I don't want to go past that. I know John will have something to say to that in the regular meeting, but the team has really done a good job of managing our length of stay here in the midst of all this, of all of our patients, and making sure they get placed. So quality, here's all the designations we received this year. So this is obviously what we focused on the most, is our quality, and a lot of third-party affirmation and recognition of what we've been able to do here at ECMC. I just actually, at 7 o'clock this morning, Karen and I were in the TICU congratulating the trauma staff for their Beacon Award for Excellence. So they joined the burn unit in MICU, and I think it's very rare to have as many ICUs receive that type of recognition in an organization. So I just wanted to point that out because that's pretty contemporary today. Hospital-acquired infections year-end summary. As you can see, while some of our some of our total patients have gone up, we did beat what's called the SIR, which is an indication, statistical indication in comparison of where we're supposed to be overall as an organization is adjusted. And we had, you know, for example, with our central line, we had a lot more, not a lot more, but it's more ICU days than we had the previous year. So you can see 5 of those patients that had central line infections were actually COVID and individuals who were on a vent for quite a long time or had a central line. And then also C. diff, while we have seen an increase in antibiotic use, and we're trying to manage through that process. And also MRSA, while we went down, actually as a statistic, we have to focus on these 2 things for 2021. Patient experience. Every organization across the country saw a reduction in their patient experience, mostly because of how busy we were and full. So we managed that process very well, and the team did a great job. But obviously, we had some areas in which we went down. Those are continuing to improve as we move through COVID. But you can see some of the communication pieces when you get busy and you have patients that maybe don't get to the floor as quickly as they should. Those scores typically do go down, but I wanted to make sure we covered the patient experience scores. We're continuing to focus on these obviously in 2021.
Tom, what are care transitions? What is that defined as, please?
Karen, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Oh, Karen, you're on mute. There you
Yes,
go.
I know. I had to unmute just for one moment. Care transitions is, and Donna can chime in, it is based on when you're transitioning from one care to another. So it includes your discharge information, your discharge checklist, making sure you know everything about your medications, making sure that you have the follow-up care that you need when you go home. Donna, do you want to speak to anything more with that?
Everyone, no, Karen, I think you covered it. It's really right, and just about what all Karen mentioned in terms of understanding what the care is once you leave the hospital and having a really good understanding of that.
So
how
sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
No, so my question is, how does that differ from this metric between discharge information and care transition? What's the different, is there a different set of metrics that are used for both or either?
So for the care transition is specifically around understanding the care once you leave. The discharge information is a review of the discharge material that accompanies you when you leave. So it's kind of a tricky, not tricky, but a different way of asking similar questions and really getting a different response. But it's really about understanding your care when you leave, what you're responsible for once you get home, which sometimes can be a little bit challenging for patients and families. But that's pretty much what it is.
Don, is it fair to say that some of that can be affected by the type of care they get after they leave here?
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. And particularly with what we saw in 2020 with COVID and everything, and that being such a nuance, understanding what that care looks like once you get home. So yes, to your point, Tom, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Obviously, virtual care, I mentioned earlier, is continuing to be an important part of what we do. Although, obviously we saw a drop off of these types of visits as people were able to come back into clinical settings. But we had over 50,000 virtual visits in outpatient clinics. We did a launch in the ER, and we're actually doing a partnership with UEMS around virtual visits. So we're going to see more focus on that and advertising around that. And virtual health center pilot. So obviously our help center is our behavioral health center that's separate from the ED for individuals who may not be in immediate danger. And that went very well, so it complements those services. And again, back to a patient physically being in-house, we used a lot of technology, both for our inpatients, but also for our terrace view patients. Culture. So obviously, this was one of our most proud moments as we all came together as the ECMC family in solidarity to fight racism and injustice. And again, just a very proud moment for the ECMC family. This is a very difficult year, as we all know, with regard to racism and injustice. And the ECMC family always comes together to support the community and patients that we serve. So diversity and inclusion, we started this journey a couple of years ago. Maybe it's been about 3, in which we had created an office under the direction of Cindy Bass. But these continue to be our strategic pillars with regard to diversity and inclusion. And we have many efforts to make sure that we continue to reach our ECMC population and make this ECMC family and make sure that this is a priority for our organization. We took a little bit of a pause on some of the training with regard to our new orange status and stopping of visitation, but we're going to be picking that back up again here very, very shortly. And obviously, we received some external recognition. One was from Business First and Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, Awareness. We received that award in 2020, and also the LGBTQ Healthcare Equity Top Performer, which is a national award. We received that. We also did some events, just again, building awareness and recognition around diversity and inclusion in our organization. This is obviously pre-COVID, as you can see, with people not having masks on, but we're continuing to do some of this virtually. Pathway Celebration Excellence. Again, we've talked a lot about that and the importance of Pathway to Excellence designation and national recognition around that for nursing. And again, as you can see, pre-COVID. And also pre-COVID, our SpringFest gift gathering luncheon. We had Chris Martocci present, and Chris is a ECMC patient. He was actually in our help center, 24/7 help center, and also in our partial hospitalization program, and gave a very moving speech about how it saved his life to all the folks who were in attendance. And Terrace View, as we know, received recognition in Newsweek as one of the best nursing homes. And congratulations again to Terrace View. Buffalo Bills. So obviously we continue to have Buffalo Bills days in spirit, and I just wanted to, this is hot off the press. We had two ECMC nurses who were selected by the Bills and the NFL to go to the Super Bowl. They were obviously hoping the Buffalo Bills would be there, but we had nominations from the nurses here at ECMC, and these two nurses together got the most nominations, and that's Caitlin Floyd, who's an RN charge nurse on 10 North, and Selena Chitoli, and both of those individuals both work on 10 North, both those nurses, and Caitlin's been here for close to 10 years, and Selena's been here as an LPN for over 5 years. They actually both went to Kansas City for the game. We just found that out today. And Kim Pagula actually called them personally via a call. And there were two nurses from ECMC and two nurses from Buffalo General that were selected. So they were obviously very excited and very emotional about winning that. And as you know, Karen has noted, just two really, really great nurses, ECMC family members, and most of all, football fans. So congratulations to them. Despite the pandemic, we did a lot of foundation initiatives. Sue and her team did a great job. I just wanted to give you an idea of all the things that went on and the fundraising that they did this year. It was a very challenging time. They were very successful. We also received over $1.6 million in COVID cash and in-kind donations. Our annual fund is 34% greater than 2019, and we have 40% employee participation. I'm asking Sue to get some context around that, because I believe that may be one of the highest in the area, if not the state. So they just did a phenomenal job with the annual fund, and I think Sue's ability to connect with our employees, especially around some of the training programs that we've done as a foundation, have really contributed to that. People really seeing the impact on the foundation for our patients and employees. And speaking of which, we did 7 certifications for employees and 79 scholarships this year. So again, we're just very proud of our foundation for supporting the advancement and most importantly, improving quality care in our building. Operations. Obviously, the most exciting thing, our Key Bank Trauma and Emergency Department opening this year, although we had to do this virtually, and it continues to just be an amazing facility for our patients. May have not seen this. The ED ramp came down, so this is the driveway. As you can see where the covering was where our old ED ramp was, and the entrance into the old ED. So that's all completed. We obviously had our Russell J. Salvatore atrium opening this year. And our building envelope project, we have had to take a pause multiple times during the pandemic, but as of late, again, on our building envelope project, but we are continuing forward and working with the contractor who's doing this to get this completed, but we had to stretch it out a little bit. And it just looks beautiful, and they've done a great job. And obviously, here's the new sign being put on the building. Again, I talked about this earlier, small project, but big impact. Our 5th floor hearing room, the team here just did a great job with this so that individuals did not have to be transported back and forth to downtown. And from a safety perspective, a huge project. And obviously from a service perspective to the patients, a huge project, and less time for the nurses and so on and so forth. We had a lot of physician recruitment. Andy and Dr. Murray and the rest of the team, Jim Turner and Pam and everybody just did a great job in recruitment. We recruited 90 physicians this past year. So the team just does a phenomenal job in making sure that we continue to build our ECMC physician recruitment. Operations. Surgical navigation system we purchased this year, which is obviously very important clinically to our surgeons. We did a cohorting initiative. You know, it's probably downplaying that in a bullet, but that initiative is very hard to achieve. And Dr. Murray and Sam Cloud and many others did an unbelievable job in working at cohorting our patients by specialty. It's very difficult to do, and especially in a trauma and emergency department where 78% of our admissions comes from there. So they just did a phenomenal job with this, and I just want to thank them for this work. It's harder and harder to do with COVID and everything else, but they're continuing to do a great job. We did some COVID technology, obviously the chat box, Vocera technology, which is a technology where individuals can talk to each other, and Pam did a great job instituting that, and Karen and our organization. So this, I don't know, this isn't, we've talked about this in previous board meetings, so I won't get into detail around it, but it's basically a technology where the clinicians can talk to each other in real time. We refreshed our burn unit as part of the window project. We took some time to do that. And the ED, the old ED, we're using now as an observation unit. So just 2021 goals, just a couple slides here. This continues to be our guiding direction for our 5-year plan that will lead the region in improving the health of our communities through collaboration with our partners, differentiated service offerings, exceptional quality and patient experience. Again, this continues to be our strategic priorities here, which we all know from our strategic planning process. But these are our high-level priorities for 2021. We're going to continue to focus, obviously, on a COVID response with our surge capacity, testing, and vaccination. Obviously, continue to be a leader in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Quality, you saw some of our priority focus grid goals. We are going to continue to work on those and make the progress that we've had, which has been remarkable, considering, again, the type of patients we serve and how patients are admitted here. Patient experience, again, continuing, we have metrics around those goals, and performance improvement. Last year, we really had a slide on our accelerating excellence projects, which really focus on clinical quality, throughput, which leads to financial success. Culture, employee and provider support resiliency. We have obviously metrics around that and continuing to support our employees. Targeted growth opportunities. We have grown orthopedics, for example, head and neck, and many other service lines, and we have strategic initiatives around those. I talked about our digital health innovation, major payer contract negotiations. We have major contract negotiations coming up, and the ability for us not only to get reimbursed better for what we do, but from an operational standpoint, how we get reimbursed. John Swiatowski has done an unbelievable job, frankly, holding his ground in many instances with the payers and making sure that we have improvements. And then finally, continuing Great Lakes Health Initiatives, which will be moving to where the puck goes with regard to healthcare and risk-based contracts, and making sure that we negotiate together through those initiatives so that we can provide care in a lower cost way, but obviously provide better quality care. So that is it. I'm happy to answer any questions from the group.
So before I open the floor to those questions and comments that anyone might have, it just occurs to me as you went through this slide deck that it's a year since we did this review, and coupled with what has occurred in the rest of the universe relative to COVID, these accomplishments, in my view, are nothing short of extraordinary. So on behalf certainly of our board, I think it's important that you know, and Andy and Dr. Murray and Karen and your entire team know how deeply appreciative we all are for what I believe to be just, this would have been an extraordinary report if COVID had not come upon us. The fact that we were able to accomplish all of these things in the context of what this pandemic has created right across the community is, as I say, nothing short of extraordinary. So first, thank you. Second, congratulations. And I don't know that this board and certainly I and our team could be any more proud of the work that you guys have done. So thank you again. And with that, I'm happy to open up the floor to questions or comments from my board colleagues. Ladies and gentlemen, questions and or comments for Tom and his management team.
Well, I'll jump out there first and agree and echo everything that you just said, John. It's truly remarkable when you think of how we're viewed on the outside, and we wouldn't be receiving all of these awards and accolades from the outside if we weren't doing a great job. And Tom knows that from time to time I have to reach out to him because the community is saying X, Y, and Z. And it's always with good news. And I appreciate the response we get back. And I appreciate the efforts on behalf of the executive team and what they're doing. And it hasn't been easy for any of us, but to look at the achievements of ECMC during this most challenging time in not only our community, but in the world, it's unbelievable that so much could be accomplished. So I do echo what you said, John, but I also want my name to go down as attributing it all to the greatness of leadership and teamwork. And I thank each and every one of you for that job.
Thank you, Sharon. Other comments, board members?
John, Mike Hofford here. I just want to offer my congratulations. I never thought that we would have been able to accomplish what we did, considering what had been handed us and the way that it has been handled. It has just been amazing. It has far exceeded any expectations I could have had. And I have to thank Tom. I have to thank the entire team, the nurses, the housekeeping people. Every single person is pulled together and just done a wonderful job. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Jack Quinn here. I'd like to add my voice as well, Tom, to you and the team. As Sharon points out, I think all of us on the board, I may be a junior member, but see month to month what great things happen here for our community. But then to have it recognized from the outside, Sharon, your point, when the governor comes by and adds your name and your team to do other things, John and Tom, it proves what we already know internally, that great things happen at this hospital and its activities. And I've said before, I'm proud to be a member of this group and proud to be associated with ECMC. Tom, you and your team need to be congratulated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Other comments?
If I could, John, I would just say that the thought that comes to my mind as I look back on the last year and everything that has gone on is that it shows once again that there's no I in ECMC. I mean, it's just a complete team effort.
Thank you, Chris. Any other comments before we move to adjourn and move on to our next meeting?
John, I'd just like to, to kind of transition from what Chris just said, is just thank my team again. They work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we try to give them some personal time. But they really, respond anytime we need anything. And they all have big engines, and they run hard. And I just wanted to just take an opportunity to thank them, especially in 2020. We tested our engines, and they just rose to the occasion. They really did. And I can't thank them enough for their support, both to me, but obviously more importantly to our patients and the employees here. And with that, I want to also thank the board, because we couldn't do what we do without your support, guidance, and input into how we do things and your connectedness to the community. I think this board probably is more connected to the community in ECMC than any board in our community, because you use this place and you have your relatives and friends and neighbors come to ECMC, so you know what happens here, and you know your advocacy for us and ambassadorship in the community is really appreciated. So again, just thank you.
Hey Tom, if your team could be translated to a football field on Sunday, we'd be going to the Super Bowl. So
Thank you, Bishop.
Hey, Tom, I just want you to know that Joe Biden is currently, well, he's just walking off the stage now, and he says he's buying 200 million more doses, 16% going to the states each. So that's going to make your week next week really fun.
We need them. We need them.
All righty, if there are no other comments, as I said, Tom, we hear about these things anecdotally throughout the year, but when you see it put into this slide deck, it really is quite overwhelming. And to your credit and that of your team, as I said, both simultaneously, congratulations and thank you. So if there be no other items for the annual meeting, I will be happy to entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there such a motion?
So
There
moved.
is. And a second?
Second.
And all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. So thank you all very much. The annual meeting is hereby concluded.